Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview, where we take a look at the stories being followed in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I'm your host, Dave Frank, and I'm joined this week by Thad Greenson, news editor, and Jennifer Fumiko Cahill, arts and features editor at the North Coast Journal. Welcome, guys.
How you doing?
Dave, how you doing?
Pretty good. Good to see you. I know that we were just talking a little bit before the show, and it's funny that I referenced in my other show, I referenced content that we covered last week. So I just want to thank you guys for the being media partners and sort of this cross-pollination that we've got going on in local community media. I think you guys do great work, and we're getting the message out. So I just want to thank you for that, for all that you do for us, and letting us share and collaborate and advance the community dialogue.
Well, right back at you, Dave. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Right back at you too.
Why don't we just dive right in? And Thad, why don't you tell us what's on the cover of this week's North Coast Journal?
Yeah, so the cover story this week is one I wrote about a local family that has taken in a Ukrainian refugee through a program called Uniting for Ukraine that really streamlines the immigration process for Ukrainian refugees to come to the U.S. on essentially a temporary 2-year visa.
So that's a really interesting and cool program, and it's already obviously working because we've got a new resident in our community and a family that's hosted this person. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how this came to be, that they came here and that got on your radar?
Yeah, so it got on my radar because I am a kind of long time, friends now with the father of the family. He was he's Steve Knight. He's a retired lieutenant from the sheriff's department, and I got to know him as kind of the sheriff's office spokesperson. And he's been retired for a good while now, but we've kept in touch. And so periodically we text about things going on in the news or whatnot. And I had known that his son, Ryan Knight, had done a stint with the Peace Corps in Ukraine. And had become very attached to the country and kind of become the focus of his professional career after the Peace Corps. And so when the tensions were escalating and Russia was preparing for this invasion kind of late last year into earlier this year, I had just been in touch with Steve about it and kind of talking to him about he and Ryan's feelings. And then after the war started, he just mentioned, kind of that he was that they were looking at bringing in a member of the family that had hosted Ryan for his Peace Corps stay there. So when Ryan Knight went there, he actually went twice, first in late 2013 and stayed for several months. And then the Ukrainian Revolution began while he was there, and the Peace Corps, very understandably got nervous and pulled all of its volunteers out of the country because of the political discord there. So Ryan kind of had that stage cut short and felt he had really grown attached to this family, and then so kind of looked for a chance to get back there and ended up going on another Peace Corps deployment and staying for a year with them once it's kind of settled down. And so Steve just mentioned that they were in talks about whether they might be able to bring the daughter of this family, who's 16, in to live with them here in Eureka. And I just said that I thought that was really interesting and wanted to write about it potentially if it came to be. And so it just so happened that I kind of got live time updates from him about, we're talking to Congressman Huffman's office now, and it looks like there's this program coming together. And then finally, when Ildika, the mother, and Christina came here, Ildika brought Christina here. I got to sit down with them and Ryan and kind of talk about their experience with the war breaking out in Ukraine, and then also coming to live with the Knights here.
Well, fantastic. So just to recap a little bit, Ryan was there from the Peace Corps, but had to come back during Maidan Revolution, the Revolution of Dignity, but had an affinity, ended up back there very recently, and now there's this connection between his family and this family, his host family. And you said that they actually, as part of this program, they came here and she did, in fact, the daughter did, in fact, start school. I want to tell us a little bit about your time that you spent with them when you met them, when you spoke with them.
Yeah, so we got together, like I said, just a few days after they had arrived in the United States, and we went to a local coffee shop, and Ryan dutifully translated for us because Ildika, the mother, speaks virtually no English, and Christina is very limited in her English skills. And I know no Ukrainian, so Ryan kind of, like I said, translated for us, and it was just fascinating to hear from them about their experience. They live in Western Ukraine. They're from a small village in Western Ukraine that so far hasn't been involved in any of the fighting. It hasn't been bombed. It hasn't been invaded. And so one might think that they were relatively untouched by the tensions and stuff going on there, and that's just not at all the case. And so it was really eye-opening for me to hear from them about how the war and the Russian invasion has really changed kind of every aspect of their life. The father of the family was a reservist in the military and actually volunteered to deploy to go help with the war effort. So there was that impact, but then they also talked about just how their village kind of became inundated with all of these displaced refugees from other areas of Ukraine, and they even took in family members from Kyiv for several months, and then just kind of how the entire country has responded to aid the war effort was really eye-opening to me. And so, Ildika talked about how neighborhood groups were now kind of learning how to make ballistic vests, flak jackets, and where to procure the materials and stuff. And so she talked about, kind of gatherings at people's houses where instead of kind of doing crafts, folks are making ballistic vests to send to the front lines. And then meanwhile, the elementary school was kind of converted into somewhat of an assembly line as well, where families would donate their earth-colored or their natural hued shirts and clothes, and boys in class would tear the fabric into strips, and the girls would be weaving it into this camouflage netting that would then also be sent to the front lines. So it was just, it was really interesting to me to hear from them about how this invasion, even though they're hundreds of miles from the front line, has just totally come to dominate their lives, which is why Ildika and her husband decided that it was really best for Christina to come here. And this was the best chance for her to get a real education in high school. And, powerfully, Ildika said that she really hopes that, she'll come here, she'll get a good education, and then she'll come back to help rebuild Ukraine, damage of this war effort.
That's fantastic. And there's more in the article, of course, but one of the one of the elements I think that really touched home was they said schools starting, like, the human face on this, the connection between our community and their community, schools starting now, but it's delayed. Can you tell us why their school's delayed?
Yeah, there were reports just this past week that the start of school in Ukraine, for much of Ukraine, has been delayed as the military searches school campuses for landmines. It was a little bit unclear if there was a overt threat or why that kind of all of a sudden became an issue, but they felt like they couldn't safely bring kids back to campus without clearing.
Yeah, it really hits home and puts it into context, I think, for the decision that they made, that it's bad, you don't want to be in a war zone if you can help it. So it's great that Ryan and his family made this connection and are hosting. Any last thoughts about your conversations with the families?
Yeah, well, not so much about the conversations with the families, but just about the Uniting for Ukraine program. Yeah. It's a sponsorship program where any person or organization in the United States can sponsor a Ukrainian citizen to come, like I said, on this temporary visa. They don't have to come live with you. So, if you're uncomfortable or unable to have somebody in your home, it doesn't preclude you from sponsoring them. Basically means that, you're pledging to help them acclimate to society, to find a job, to, enroll in school, to find housing, those kinds of things. And it's a really powerful chance to give somebody, a significant hand up in life. And there's actually an informational meeting coming up about it for anybody who's interested on September 17th from 10 to 12 at oh boy, I've forgotten the name of the church. Do you have it in front
United
of you?
Presbyterian Church, I think.
Yes, in Eureka.
Right on, and you
Yep.
can find that on North Coast Journal. You can find them online and in the print edition also. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll hear more about this program. Hopefully, as more and more people, in theory, get supported by our community members. So a pitch for people to really think about participating in that meeting and the program. And thanks to Congressman Huffman, I think, for being a facilitator in this too. I think that goes a long way to his concern and efforts.
Yeah, definitely. The Knights just raved about how effective his office was in helping put this thing together.
Fantastic. What else you covered on the news beat this week?
Yeah, so I also wrote a story about embattled Arcata City Council member Brett Watson, who folks might remember announced he would seek re-election last month in the face of calls for his resignation due to the investigation the city hired a third party to do that found he had engaged in a prolonged pattern of sexual harassment and abuse of his position with a city employee. And so he has, initially just kind of deflected calls for his resignation and was adamant that he was not going to step down. And then, like I said, last month announced that he was going to not only not resign, but run for re-election. And in doing so, in his announcement, he cited kind of this upwelling of community support that has encouraged him to do so. And so when I read that, I just thought, that's interesting. I haven't seen anybody encouraging him to run for re-election or to remain in office during public meetings of the Arcata City Council. There's been quite a few people calling for him to resign at those meetings. Nobody kind of voicing support. And so we filed, actually, Kimberly, we are our digital editor, filed a California Public Records Act request seeking all of Brett Watson's emails from the city from the time that this report into these allegations of sexual harassment was first made public to the time of his re-election announcement. And we poured through those, I think, more than 700 emails. And found that by a count of about 30 to 4, they overwhelmingly called for him to resign. Constituents, friends, some former supporters, and it seemed like his support was very thin based on his emails. He maintains, we reached out to him for comment, that the support that he's talking about has come to him via text message, via phone calls, via personal interactions. And he doesn't expect everybody to have the time to write their council member or to show up at a city council meeting to share their thoughts. I think it's worth noting that while everybody might not have that time, it seems like the folks that do fall overwhelmingly on the take that he should step down and not.
So that Freedom of Information Act request and the time it took to go through it, you guys were able to come up with some metrics. So it's not just qualitative, it's quantitative, right? And so you kind of let the information speak for itself. So thank you for following up and kind of keeping the community informed about someone, a local political leader's claims that they've got a lot of support. You're basically saying, yeah, why don't you show us this support, because it doesn't seem that way to us. So thank you for keeping us in the loop.
Yeah, I think what we said in the story is, if the support exists, it does not exist in the public record.
Right.
Which is all we can really go.
Yeah. And I know we are just about the end of our news segment here, but you wanted to give a quick plug for one more article that you've worked on this week that we talked about, or that you shared with me.
Yeah, just very briefly, we've been covering the ongoing controversy surrounding the Humboldt County Planning Commission, its chair, Alan Bongio's comments about some local native tribes, and it's his handling, or the Planning Commission's handling of some permit modifications for a local developer. And Jen and I just put our heads together this week and kind of talking about everything that's happened at the last couple Planning Commission meetings. Wrote an editorial calling for Alan Bongio to resign his position, feeling that he is no longer capable of really fulfilling that role in a way that the position demands, especially given that we are all on industrial Wiyot territory. This is Wiyot land, and can no longer be the person governing land decisions on it.
Jen, since you were a collaborator on that article, do you want to comment at all at this point?
I just want to throw out very quickly, because I know it's going to come up, I know it's going to land in our inboxes, that this is not what we call cancel culture. This is what we call somebody displaying qualities and ethics that do not suit their position. And the people who basically are, at the mercy of that person in that position, deciding that this is not okay with us. These are not issues of a political position that he holds that we don't like. It is an issue of him not understanding the historical context and the importance, the gravity of his comments, and the gravity of his bias and how it affects the future of Humboldt County. It's too big a job and too serious a position to just let him continue on in this vein.
Well, that was concise. Thank you. I just want to, for folks, I want to encourage people to read it for a variety of reasons, but there's this principle, cause and effect, that is a foundational piece of having trying to shed light on things where people may not agree or see eye to eye on the surface. But if you can display for them that the cause and effect, then typically the human brain is capable. Cognitive psychologists will say beliefs can change if you really understand cause and effect and evidence is presented. And I want to give you guys credit, because this article did a great job. This editorial did a great job of just taking away the emotion and just talking about the actual facts and the impact of those facts. And it's worth checking out. I really want to give you guys, props for that. Thanks,
David. I appreciate that.
You're most welcome.
That goes to bad.
Well, there you go. I'll let that speak for itself. Why don't we transition now, Janet? Why don't you tell us what's going on the arts and features beat?
Listen, I'm stuffed, David. I just came off, this is how journalists burn out. It's very dangerous. I just came off of the county fair, and then we're on to the Friday night market. Have you been to the Friday night market yet?
Not, I've gone in the past, but no, not recently.
It has grown. So it is now, like before it was like, kind of like most of a street. And then it started to go around the corner. And now it is a three-pronged attack.
Wow.
Centering on the Six Rivers Brewery beer kiosk in the middle. And then in all directions, there are vendors. There's 3 different bands a night, I believe, wow. And all kinds of food. Oh my God, so much food. And some of them are kind of old standbys that are wonderful. And then some of them are kind of newer. So I went and tried everything.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
I'm just going to interject here to say I've never been more sure that I've made terrible life choices than reflecting on a week in which I read through all of Brett Watson's emails and Jen ate everything at the Friday night market.
Yeah. Priorities.
I fed your feelings. Listen, it is unfair. I'm really sorry. So I just want a quick rundown. Some of my favorite standard vendors that are always around, you can always find them somewhere, are showing up for Friday night market. But if you live in Eureka, you might not always be getting over to like the McKinleyville Farmers Market or, up at the casino or something like that. And so you might be missing these things. Also, it's just kind of cool to see everything gathered together, all your different cravings happening in one place, but it can be overwhelming. And so I kind of ran through and did a little survey. Some of the ones that are standbys, like Pizza Gago. If you have never stopped at the Pizza Gago stall, stop at the Pizza Gago stall. It's going to be good, I promise. Whatever you get, whether it's just like a margarita pizza or it's like some schmancy things with fig and prosciutto, it's going to be good. You cannot fail. There's no bad pizza to be had, and it's going to be lovely and hot and just like perfect. So do that. Also, fry bread love. Never pass up fry bread love. Always stop and get like an Indian taco or anything that they have that's sweet on special. It doesn't matter what it is, just get it. It doesn't matter if they were putting jam or peaches or Nutella or just powdered sugar on fry bread. You want it. Just get it. Let yourself be happy. Also, So nice to see the Taste of Bim truck. They had the most wonderful chicken curry in this big bowl, but that's like if you want dinner. If you are grazing, you probably need to like pull it back and just have one of their like patties. But they have really lovely things, you know, the Los Guias, is it Los Guias? Guias, Gilles,
Yes, yes.
and Guias. I suck at Spanish. I took French. It has not helped me at all. Straight C's. Anyway, but that truck is wonderful. And like every time I think about their torta, I need to take a minute. The asada torta. So beautiful. So there are all kinds of wonderful things that you might already be familiar with, but there are other places that some of them don't even show up in stall form anywhere. Las Colombianas has empanadas, but these are not the same empanadas that you're having over at like Slice of Humboldt Pie or elsewhere. These are
I like empanadas.
yeah, they're the Colombian version, which is a yellow cornmeal exterior, and it's kind of crispy outside, and then the inside is blazing hot and very thick and stewy, as opposed to just like, you know how a puff pastry puffs up and there's kind of there's always a gap from the steam, and it's lovely, but this sucker is packed with meaty filling, and it's delightful, and the salsa is a little different from say a Mexican salsa, and it's lovely. Yang's Kitchen has a very important trio of items: egg rolls, wings, and cheese puffs, or crab puffs technically. These are wonderful. My favorite, of course, is the wing and egg roll combo. An important pairing that has been kept apart for too long. How I have eaten wings and thought, if only I had some egg rolls to go down with these, it would be great. And likewise, egg rolls and wings. Have them together and just know that I'm right. Every bar platter you've ever gotten with like mozzarella sticks and potato skins, it's fine. But we need to start normalize wings and egg rolls as a bar platter. They're lovely, and he has a mango habanero sauce that is very nice, tangy and sweet and spicy and just delightful, but not so hot that you're like dying and you can't taste the next thing. Speaking of wings, Racks on Racks, which is called Racks on Racks because they used to do ribs, but now they only do wings. But they've committed to the name, so they're Racks on Racks wings. They are normally out of the Arcata Foodworks building, I believe, but they show up at events like this one. They have the sauciest wings that I think I've ever been confronted with. Like if you're a person who's like, these could be saucier, these could not be saucier. They are the sauciest possible. There's no scientific way to get more sauce on a wing than these wings. And they're very like bursting with flavor. If you need things to be like exploding with flavor, if you've ever bitten into a Dorito and thought, this is a little bland, Racks on Racks. The OG barbecue and the gold sauce, which is a Carolinas thing, and it is flavored with, like a little honey, a little black pepper, a little seasoning, but also mustard. So it's like a yellowy glaze, and it has that mustardy kind of pitch to it. And if you are a person who loves mustard, welcome. These are your wings. Very excited to have a huarache that I could have worn as a cape. It was enormous. It came from Mom's Delia's, which is a strange name, but I don't care. They've made a huarache that I could hide behind. It's fantastic. They make lovely stuff. Also, there's a mini donut place, Hot Donuts. I don't need to say more to you to sell you on hot donuts, right? Hot donuts. Yep. And they're tiny, so you can eat like 5 of them or 12 of them. I don't care how many you eat. I encourage you and support you. And finally, smash burgers. I would like to make a pitch for the Food with Hoy smash burger pop-up stand, which you should have. They look, I'm going to be honest, they look like nothing. They are not like big, gorgeous, Instagram-friendly towers of meat. They look like nothing, but they taste so good. They taste like your happiest imagination of a hamburger. That grilliness, the meatiness, the melted cheese. They're two patties to a burger, and it is just a perfect, like, platonic ideal of a burger, and you should have it.
Oh, goodness, Jen. This is like a contagious PSA for making sure we get out there on Friday. So I'm probably going to go. I don't know how I could deny myself half of what you just mentioned. So thank you so
Bring
much.
friends and share.
Yeah, I have actually a friend in town, which is my excuse for when I usually go there anyway. So it's like meant to be.
All right.
Well, right on. Sad, Jennifer, thank you guys so much for this week. That's about all the time that we have. Really appreciate you guys being here.
Thanks for having us.
North Coast Journal is available on newsstands now. Pick one up, stay informed. Also available online 24/7. So definitely check them out there too. Thank you guys again. Thank you out there for listening, and take care until we connect again next week.